welcome recording. All right, over to you.
Smashing. Thank you, George. Professor Karani and I have been working together to get some wonderful resources for looking at international public health activity and policy activity for this module. And through Professor Karani has put out a request for interest for people that he has been collaborating with to see if they were able to come and spend some time speaking to you, our students this year, about public health and the activities that they're undertaking, some of the approaches that they're using within their country's origin. And so we have had a very warming and superb response from people who have very generously given their time to come and speak with us today. So we've set up this morning's session into 3 one-hour chunks. In each of the chunks, we have 3 presentations. This is going to be given by our guests. There will then be an opportunity for you to ask some questions of how things are in their country, ask them about themselves, how they got to doing what they're doing at the moment, how they're dealing with coronavirus, how they're approaching the Sustainable Development Goals. This is an excellent opportunity for you to find out a bit about what's going on in all of these different countries. And I wanted to say my heartfelt gratitude to our presenters for coming this morning, as their time is very valuable and it is very much appreciated. George, do you want to present our first set of 3 presenters?
Okay. Right. Good morning. Just wanted to say how delighted I am for this opportunity to be able to attend and listen. Okay, so I'll start. Mr. Henry Dawson, Module Lead, ENH 6 to 10, collaborators, students, colleagues, and guests, good morning. I'm very excited to welcome you to this online lecture with our students. When I shared an idea on the proposed approach to delivering this session, Henry was excited with our methods, and he had to pass through some weak barriers so as to hold the session, and I thank him for the good work. I want to thank you, our students, who have participated in lectures with enthusiasm, curiosity, and eagerness to work and learn more about United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I'm indeed very humbled with the support given to me by my collaborators, who have created time from their busy schedules to prepare, plan, and present lecture today. A big thank you to all of you. You all have contributed significantly to our approach to address challenges and opportunities through partnership to improve quality of life by involvement of all appropriate stakeholders API. In addition to our speakers today, please receive greetings and appreciation from the following collaborators who are unable to attend today due to urgent work commitments or other urgent matters. Number 1, Dr. Juma Mohammed from Libya, who is part of a government health and safety committee at an accreditation event today. Number 2, Colonel Dr. Abdal Hamoudi from United Arab Emirates, who is involved with the mandatory police training this week. Number 3, Dr. Abdulaziz Al-Sawi from Oman, who is involved with urgent government matters. And number 4, Dr. El Hadi Abogren from Libya, who is at home recuperating. Dr. Judy Mwai from Kenya, who is on government fieldwork on universal healthcare, has sent her presentation. Thank you all and welcome. It's my pleasure now to introduce our first speaker, Brigadier Dr. Ali Naimi, a close friend, a researcher, a Navy brigadier, who, for those of us who don't possibly are aware of that, is like a one-star general. This is somebody I have worked with. I've really enjoyed seeing his progress and especially his love for his country. So I now welcome Brigadier Dr. Ali Naimi, who will present in this first session. Over to you, Brigadier Dr. Ali Naimi.
Oh, thank you so much, George. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but we can't see you.
Okay. I don't know why. Okay, start video. Sorry, this is my mistake. Now I'm trying. Okay, they cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
All right, just no, don't. I'll do that for you. Just I shouldn't because that's a.
And also, you know, give me the approval for the share screen.
Okay, just a minute. You should be able to do that. You have, because you are a panelist, you can do that.
Because it's saying host disabled participant screen sharing.
It's worked well. No. No, you have. You can be able to do. Right. How about that now? Yes, now you can.
Yeah, okay. No,
yeah.
But my video still is not.
No, you can share your video. You can share.
No, yeah, now you can see my screen.
Yes, you can see your screen. Thank you.
Yes, but my video still. I think you need. Yeah, it cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. Anyway, I will start my project, and you can manage later my picture. I don't think they want to. I think they want to see my pretty face.
No, we want to see you, but continue, sorry.
Anyway, my name is Dr. Ali Naimi. I'm from Qatar. I will talk briefly. I am very glad that to be with you today this morning. And okay, start my video. Okay. Hi. I will talk, inshallah, briefly about our project with Professor George and Cardiff Metropolitan University. By using local community knowledge for land reclamation to mitigate the impact of land reclamation, and it is such a you know a way to assume sustainable development in my country. Before we start, I want just to mention where is Qatar related to Wales. So I think Wales is 1.5 bigger than Qatar, something like that. Qatar is a small country in the Middle East. It's in the heart of Arabian Gulf, previously they called Persian Gulf. This is some data about Qatar. You can just move this one, like, yeah. So the amazing thing about Qatar that the Qataris actually, they are minority in their country. We are only representing 11.6% of the whole population, which is estimated as 2.7 million. Our GDP per capita is almost number 1 per capita in the world. We have Qatar also number 1 in national and NGL, natural gas around the world. So it's not big country, it's small country, but it have a very big influence around the world. Now, before I start to talk about my project, I would like just to talk a little bit about, you know, the definition of sustainable development. This is the United Nations General Assembly in 1987, which is they're mentioning that the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. You know, you know, simply that's what does it mean? It means that we have an asset, we have a wealth. If we want to keep it to continuous for the long period, with one restriction, that we don't affect on the environment. So if we have, like, for example, in Qatar, we have oil and gas, we can use it all in 10 years, or otherwise we can sustainable in it, and our next future generation will gain the welfare from this treasure, and also we need to put in our mind not to impact on our environment. So my project is using the Qatari local ecological knowledge to assist and mitigate the impact of land reclamation on the Doha coastal area. Now, state of Qatar feature the presence of marine environment and fishery scattered in several areas next to dozens of coral reefs on an island. This should be managed through appropriate sustainable environment development in order to safeguard the environment and maintain biodiversity, especially if there are sensitive and fragile environment reefs such as coral or mangrove or fishery. Qatar has evolved significantly over the past 3 decades, especially in the field of landscape urbanism, and this development have had a dramatic impact on the marine environment. And this is why it's encouraged me to do my project. And I remember in our first meeting with the Professor Karani, we was discussing the different threats on the environment around Doha area. Let me go, yeah. So you can see this is the Doha city. You can see in the right picture, this is Doha in 1947 and how big it's become in 2017 comparing to 1947. And all this landscaping or all this development was threatening, you know, the area, the coastal area around Doha city. And I remember like 6 years ago when we started our project, I remember Professor Karani asked me to evaluate what type of risk or what type of pollution that we can face. And we categorized the different threats, and we discovered that land reclamation is the main problem. Land reclamation is gaining land from the sea, from the coastal area. And you know that it's it's now increasing around all the world because of the need of the economical and social development for any countries. And I think the pioneers in land reclamation is the Netherlands or Holland. We call it Holland. In Netherlands, where they reclaimed a lot of lands from the coastal areas. Now, land reclamation is not a bad thing if we use it in a good way. And one of our objectives on this project was to increase the awareness of people, governments, toward the land reclamation. So we will use it sustainably, which can serve the development of the country and also will save the environment around us. This is another picture of the Doha metropolitan area where you can see the development of the urbanism around the area. Now, in our project, which we started, now there's just one addition I can add. My profession in Qatar has provided me with experience of such changes. In my opinion, there is a noticeable higher level of sediment and less fish species visible at several locations near Doha coast. As an ex-naval officer serving for more than 30 years, cruising around the Qatari coastal area, I witnessed the fast-paced development in Doha coast during the last 3 decades and observed a number of marine environment issues emerging to reveal the influence of this development on the coast. So I needed to do something. I am not, you know, I wasn't someone who's have a strong influence in the government. However, I tried individually to do something. So I started this project to, you know, reach a solution or maybe a suggestion toward solving the problem. To the best of my knowledge, this was the first research project conferred by government official that evaluate the effect of land reclamation on the Doha marine environment by using local ecological knowledge and the contribution of participants from both governmental and non-governmental actors. Now, different people or researchers, they will approach this problem with different angle. I prefer to approach it socially, because who caused this problem is the people themselves. Then they should be the a part of the solution, because they are the people who causing. Government official, all the the business people, the businessmen, they are all human beings. They are all the people they are all Qataris. So they should participate and try to solve this problem. And this is what we aimed, and this is what we did. And we okay. Now you can say okay. Now we gather. We in this project started to determine who will be the stakeholders who can enrich our research and give us a solution and show us the problem also. So we categorize them to 6 stakeholders, from government official to naval officer, safeguards officers, and we have fishermen, professional fishermen and non-professional fishermen, and non-active fishermen. I mean, because in Qatar, most of the people, they like fishing. Maybe more than 50% of the Qataris, they will have like a fishing boat, and they will go on weekend to fish, because Qatar is a peninsula, and we have the 3 sides of the seas surrounding the peninsula, the land. So we wanted to gain more information from those people to see the problem, and we succeed to do the first symposium, where we gather all these stakeholders under one roof, and they started to talk to each other. And this is one of the objectives that we gained, that people started to talk about this problem. Before, nobody was talking about land reclamation and the impact of it. The finding revealed the need for the development of an action plan framework for Doha marine environment protection, management, and development. The framework is the outcome of the literature reviews and the local ecological knowledge of relevant stakeholders during the pilot and the main phase of the study, which were collected, analyzed, and discussed. The action plan is divided into 3 time scales: short, medium, and long. So it will be more realistic and achievable. Now, the time scales have been distributed on the following criteria: speed of implementation and delivery, period for obtaining results, extent of continuity required. Action plan points were categorized in order of their urgency and priority within the time scale. The action plan framework, which has the theme of a healthy marine environment, a healthy future. This is the framework that we, as a result of our research, and you can see in each term or in each time scales, we have like a slogan or an objectives to achieve. So in short term, we are concentrating, or we are aiming for community awareness. In the medium term, we are aiming for environment resource management. And in long term, we are aiming to environmental sustainability. So the end result of our framework, it will be sustaining the development. That we said that there is development, we support the development. However, we need to have it a sustainable development for our project. This is summarize all my work, and I am happy to answer any question if there is. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brigadier Ali. Fascinating and very much enjoyed. Thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you so much.
All right. If you can stop sharing your screen, please.
George, talking to me?
Yeah, can you stop sharing your screen, please?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me stop video. All right.
Okay, Ryan Kelly, thank you. If you stop that, so that.
Okay, no, sorry. I think stop sharing. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. It's, thank you very much. Sent messages. So what we will do, if you, I know you're busy. Let's wait for the other two speakers, and in the next 30 minutes, we'll have a few minutes for questions. Will that be okay, Brigadier Ali?
Okay.
All right. Okay. We'll go to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Ms. Abosede Lawal from Nigeria, who is our current PhD student. Ms. Lawal.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Over to you, Ms. Lawal.
Good morning to everyone, and thanks for the opportunity, Henry and Professor Karani. It's really nice to share my work. I'm just going to discuss or share a little part of my work because I'm still on it. So I won't be able to share basically the recommendation and all the benchmark we've developed yet. So I'm just going to share a little part of my research work. And my research work is health risks associated with retail petrol stations in Ilorin, Nigeria. Ilorin is a state, a capital of a state in Nigeria. And to my wonderful supervisors, they have been wonderful because if PhD work, you have to have an encouraging and a patient supervisor. So they have been great and they have been wonderful. So I have Professor Karani and Professor Daniel Thomas. They are wonderful and they have been encouraging throughout the journey. So I want to use this period to say thanks to them. And I wouldn't take much of your time, so I will just dive into it. My research location is in Africa, west of Africa particularly, which is in Nigeria, and a state in Nigeria. Nigeria is in West Africa, and it has about 206 million people thereabout, and over 500 ethnic group. And unfortunately, they're having some little crisis going on, and we hope that things settle down soon. So, and in Ilorin, where exactly my research took place, is a capital of a city, Kwara State, which has a population of about 84,500 people. So this is actually where my research is basically in the petroleum industry. So the petroleum industries are divided into various sectors, and these sectors comprises of different activities. So we can see the diagram is showing us the various activities under the petroleum industries. We have the exploration and the production, the storage and transportation after exploration, then when it is being moved to the refinery and the processing, then when it goes down to sales and marketing. And that's my main focus was going onto the sales and marketing. So these various activities is divided into the different sectors of the petroleum industries. So the exploration and production actually is classified under upstream sectors because that is the beginning. We believe is an upstream. It could be on land, it could be in the sea. So where you excavate to get to your crude oil. Then we have the midstream sectors, which is the storage and the transportation and distribution. And sometimes the midstream sector has a refinery and processing to break down the storage that's been, or the transportation of the product explored and produced on the upstream. Then we have the sale and marketing in the downstream sector. And sometimes the downstream sector also overlaps the refinery and the processing. So we could have refinery and processing both in the midstream sector and in the downstream sector. So my research, most literatures and most research work concentrate on the exploration and production because there is large environmental effect when you explore for crude oil on the sea, on shore, or inland. There tends to be an environmental problem. And when you're transporting heavy products from the upstream sectors, it could also lead to a lot of environmental problem. But most research we don't concentrate on the downstream sector because they believe they deal with limited quantity of petroleum products, which they do, but it's an interesting part or an important part of the petroleum industries. So my research focus was on the downstream sector, on a very particular area of it. It is quite small, but they are significant, which is the petroleum station, retail petrol station, where you on high, if you have a car, actually go and refuel our car. So all those Asda, Echo, and different retail petrol stations, that is where my research focus was or is in Nigeria. So I'm going to show you an example of a retail petrol station in Nigeria. This is the picture on my right, is showing a typical structure of a retail petrol station in Nigeria. So, and I have located the retail petrol station, which is a sector under the downstream sector in the petroleum industry. And my focus about what are the effects of these petroleum stations. Though they have their advantages, but they also have their disadvantages. So I'm looking at the factors that they contribute that could be detrimental to the environment, and also what are the factors that this wonderful person working in the petroleum station those risk factors that could affect his or her health in that petroleum station. So we have what the petroleum station can cause to the environment, and also the person that works in that petrol station. Because if we are familiar with retail petrol stations or gasoline station in UK, we notice we do a self-service. You go in, you park your car, you refuel your car yourself. Or in Nigeria, we employ petrol station attendant because we have a full service. It's not self-service in this part of the country. So you have people that stays by the pump almost like more than 12 hours, or based on their shift pattern, and they stand there, they refuel people's car and take money from them. So they hold the money, they talk to the people. So sometimes they stand there for a long hour. So in this process, because I've identified the part of the sector and the industry and the people that my research is going to focus on, my method was a cross-sectional study design because it was within a period of quite a short period of time. And I used a mixed method approach to collect my data, making use of the quantitative and qualitative method. And my quantitative method includes using questionnaires, field observation checklists, and my qualitative analysis, I did use interview. I did a focus group on this petrol station attendant. Then I also did one-to-one interview for those that own the petrol stations and all the government officials like the environmental health officers who goes to monitor this effect, the effect and the surrounding of this petrol station. So an ethical approval is quite important. They always remind us as a PhD student and as a student in the university. So after I've decided what method to use to collect my data, I went through the ethical approval and it was approved. My pilot study, that was when I was able to test my socio-demographic questionnaire, which I later use in my main research. And as I stated, my data was collected with questionnaires, field observation checklists, focus groups, and one-to-one interview. And my data analysis was different softwares, SPSS, and available software were used for the appropriate data analysis. And I have my results and findings, but basically because I am not through with my PhD yet, I'm in my last year, so I'm still writing up and trying to put things together. So, and I'm just going to show you like just a second view. So the picture on my left is showing us a diagram of a petrol station, a skeletal diagram. You can see the retail petrol station in the middle, and we can see how this retail petrol station could cause environmental pollution to the surrounding. If you have a resident close to that, there is possible contamination because the tanks that stores the gasoline that would buy from the fuel stations, they are stored underground. Sometimes they have leakage, and that contaminates the soil. It's washed by runoff waters, and it contaminates the rivers and the plants around us. And also there are fumes released from the cars, from the fuel, from the engines of the cars at the petrol station. So all this has different effects, and we can see that they have contributing factors to air pollution, water and soil pollution. And those people, so these are some of the effects of the retail petrol stations to the environment. And looking at the other diagram on my right, we can see that these people, like I've shown in the previous slide, the person working at the retail petrol station, they are liable because they work for a long hour, almost 7 days a week and continuous. They work in this petrol station. So they are at the source where they can inhale fume. They are exposed to different hazards. So most of these petrol station attendants are exposed to chemical, biological, physical, economics, and safety hazards, which can affect their health and general well-being, and even reduce the quality of life. And you can see the pictures. Based on different pollution, we can see some of the causes that the effects could lead to, and them being at the source of this pollution would have more effect on them compared to someone not at the source of the exposure to all this pollution. So my findings shows that because when I started the research at the area of the state I chose for the research, there was no actual number of petrol stations. You wouldn't know the number of petrol stations. So I went through that. I was able to gather the total petrol station, identify which is functioning and not functioning. And that gives us the ability to randomize the selected petrol stations that are functioning to get our sample size. And also with the result of the research, we find out that the majority of the retail petrol station attendants in Ilorin are male, educated, they are single, between the age of 25 to 31 years. So retail petrol station attendants, based on the data collected, shows that they are exposed to fire, robbery, car accident, violence, fuel spillage on their skin, fuel spillage on the floor, and sometimes even those fueling cars, they are run over by motorcycles on their feet, by cars. So they are exposed to different types of hazards. And major environmental problem caused by the retail petrol station themselves, from the data collected from residents close to them, and even the petrol station attendants, are noise, because of the electricity problem. So they use generator, and the generator generates a lot of noise. And also fire has been an hazard associated with petrol station. And when fire happens at this petrol station, it affects the residents and even the workers there. And air pollution, the fumes from the fuel, also affect the people that live close to them and also work at that station. So it is fine, okay, we've identified what some of those problems that this retail petrol station could cause, and how it can affect the life of their workers or the people that work there. So contribution of the research studies towards the achievement of sustainable development goal. We know that we just don't want to do research for doing sake. They have to make an impact. They have to make a changes. They have to make a contribution. They have to bridge some gap within the body of knowledge. So we know that the Sustainable Development Goal has 17 goals in them, and my research is contributing more on good health and well-being. So, and on the good health and well-being, we have different targets. And my research is contributing more on target 3.4, saying by 2030, reduce by 1/3 premature mortality from non-communicable diseases through prevention and treatment, and promote mental health and well-being. So if we could have identify problems that could lead to, that could affect the health and general well-being of petrol station attendants, which are workers and they are essential, then that could help us to limit certain percentage of early deaths among them, and which could contribute to the achievement of the third goal. And also, it also contributes to target 3.9 under the third goal. By 2030, substantially reduce the number of deaths and illness from hazard chemicals and air, water and soil pollution and contamination. So, and basically from my previous presentation, you can see how these various sectors contribute to air and water pollution and soil contamination also. So when we have from the recommendation and the benchmark developed at the end of the research, this would promote and suggest ways where we can increase the awareness of people to bring their knowledge to all these risk factors associated with their work and how to improve their quality of life. Because even I used SF36, which also gave us information about their quality of life. So this could really be an important way of contributing to that percentage that we're looking to in a sustainable development goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lawal. Very interesting listening and some quite concerning findings. I'm looking forward to seeing your write-up. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Abosede. Thank you. It's lovely as always to listen to the important work that you're doing. If you can stop sharing your screen, please. Thank you. Thank you, Abosede. Our third speaker is Mr. Trevor Butler. One of the things that has made our work successful is in the way we work with people from different backgrounds, people from different professionals. And in particular, at the university, we work with the Cardiff School of Art and Design, especially through Dr. John Littlewood. And Trevor is working with Dr. Littlewood. He's based in Canada, but he has just arrived in the UK. And Trevor, over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how the journey was as you came back, and then make your presentation. Over to Trevor. Abosede, please stop sharing your screen so that Trevor can come in. Hi, Trevor.
Good morning.
Good morning, Trevor.
Good morning, Professor Karani.
Okay, over to you, Trevor.
Thank you very much. Can you see my slides?
Yes, they've come up just fine, thank you. And welcome to the UK.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be back. And I'm up in Cambridge with my family for a few days. So timing of this workshop is perfect. So I'm really glad to be part of today's session. I'm a professional engineer, originally from the UK and currently working in Canada on engineering projects there. The UN Sustainable Development Goals are something which we're seeing a lot of impact on the work in Canada in particular. And my PhD work is focusing on how can we improve air quality in spaces, working under the guidance of Dr. John Littlewood at Cardiff Metropolitan University. It's really interesting seeing these goals on the UNDP websites, and we've used these for a variety of different projects. Areas that I would particularly get focused in, I've just put some circles around: sustainable communities, clean water, climate action, renewable energy, and good health and well-being. And with the COVID situation that we're in, that's really where I'm seeing a lot of main focus, and that's what the PhD I'm carrying out is really focusing on: well-being with regard to the built environment. So I'm going to give you a little bit of some background projects that I've worked on, which also reflect the UN SDG goals. This is a project in China where we worked with the local community on food production in a high altitude climate, where has been quite difficult to grow fresh produce. So there's a lot of reliance on the food from the yak, which is, a lot of butter, meat, fat, wool, but to have fresh vegetables with some natural vitamins in was very important. So this greenhouse materials and products using passive solar energy, thermal mass to store the heat at night time when it gets very cold, and produce good fresh food locally was a significant benefit to the community. Also working in Zambia with one of the Lash communities there. This is just outside Lusaka, using the natural soil of the site to create earth blocks, and as a result to provide a pond for the fish to grow in as a source of food. Also looking at hot water to save electricity using that great sunlight resource that we get in Central Africa there. Also in Guatemala, working on some school projects and again securing good food systems for the staff and children, looking at how we can close the loop together to secure a long-term food supply and resilience. Moving into the work where I'm currently working is we're looking at the indoor environment, and this particular relevant in the COVID era that we're in. The indoor environment is very artificial, it's unnatural, and we're spending more and more time inside. The studies say that people spend 90% of their time inside buildings, very rarely go outside these days. I met someone who was very proud of the fact that they lived in an apartment. They could take the elevator down to their parking garage, get in their car, drive to work, drive to their office parking garage, get in the elevator and go to their building. They were proud that they never went outside ever. But it's a big problem, and it's been a problem most notably in seniors housing and classrooms, as we see in this COVID stage where we're in. And no matter what you do to try and address that, you've got to do more than just put wallpaper on the walls to try and make it look healthy, because that doesn't do anything. So there's some serious moves that we have to make. And in a cold climate like Canada, to provide lots of ventilation, it can cost a huge amount of energy to provide warm air when it's -30 or -40 Celsius outside. So there's been some work done previously in the 1980s here with John Haidt from the Rocky Mountain Research Center, where they used a system of earth tubes to bring air into the buildings, where the ground would naturally warm the air or cool the air in the summer. And then they also built them into the hillsides to provide passive annual heat storage. And this was actually the thesis topic of my supervisor, my director of studies, Dr. John Littlewood. And that's how we met. And he really focused on the heat storage in the buildings, and I've been focusing on the ventilation side of things. So it's quite an interesting crossover. Based on that learning from Canada and USA, we developed our own prototype building in London in 1998 in the Mile End Park. And we used large concrete pipes to be the method of bringing in ventilation air, which would then get buried under dirt, and that soil would be used to pre-warm or pre-cool the air. We'd never done this before in the UK, and we built about 5 of these buildings in the park and monitored them and found it actually worked quite well. And then when I moved to Canada about 12 years ago, there hadn't been this hadn't been tried very much there before either. So we were able to work with some clients who were interested in testing this technology, and this is the city of Kelowna, which is where I live. It's in British Columbia on the west coast. Gets to about -20, -30 sometimes in the winter, and in the summer it can get as hot as +40. So it's a very extreme temperature. And we put in an earth tube system on this project, again using basic concrete pipe, nothing too sophisticated, something that contractors are very used to using. And there was no extra excavation costs because you had to dig a trench to put the basement wall in for the foundations. So once that was dug, we just laid the pipe around the perimeter of the building and monitored the air temperatures over a period of time. And these are some of the results from the study. And it shows that in heating season, which is the majority of the season in Canada, that we can save 46% energy. The red line in the middle on this graph is the temperature of the air leaving the earth tube. And the blue lines are the outdoor air variances over a full 365-day year period. The cooling mode was the surprise factor, where we saw we could actually save 70% of the energy associated with air conditioning. And that I think gives us the chance to look at how could we provide complete air conditioning to our projects without using mechanical systems, just using earth tubes and a better envelope. Interestingly, my sister and her family in Oregon are currently building a greenhouse project, which is using earth tubes as a form of providing naturally cooled air to those projects, to that building, and also warmer air in the winter time. So we'll be seeing how that performs in the US climate in Oregon. That's about all I had to say. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to join your meeting today, Professor Karani and everybody else. Thank you.
Excellent, Trevor. Thank you so very much. I hope the journey wasn't that bad. Was it okay on your way when you're coming back?
It's okay. Yeah, it's not too bad yet. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay. All right. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
We're gonna have, if we can ask the 3 panelists, Brigadier Dr. Ali, Ms. Abosede, Lawal, and Trevor, just to be back, and we'll have now time for questions. Because you are all able, you're able to unmute yourself or put a video on. So can I suggest, if you want to ask a question, please tell us who you are for the sake of those who don't know you, and ask your questions. Anybody, you can start, please. Anybody that has a question or a comment. I'll start with Henry.
Thank you very much. I have to say, Mr. Butler, your presentation is particularly interesting to me, as I am somewhat fond of speleology, and we've been doing some interesting science around what is a very stable underground environment we have in the UK, working at a steady 8 to 12 degrees C. So very interesting. Thank you. I am interested, Brigadier Ali, in some of the findings that you've had. Have you found that the public reception for the findings and the environmental impacts that have been involved in the land reclamation in your country has been sympathetic, or would you say that there has been more of a business approach with respect to this sort of activities?
It's more of, a business thing. It's developing. Qatar is a developing country. and they started to show all the world that how much the strength of our economy, especially we are hosting the 2022 World Cup, and all these projects are actually supporting our infrastructure. However, there is the downside of that is how it's affecting the environment. Now the government is aware about the problem, and for each project we will do the environment assessment, impact assessment before that. However, even when you study your project, there will be two different views. The first views is the business people views that they want to gain more money from their projects, and the other view is the people who's divining or protecting the environment. And there is a, like we can say in Qatar here, it's a soft clash between those two groups. However, we as a a researcher and science, we want to support both group. We don't want to stop the development, but also we didn't want to impact in the environment. So the good thing about that our project with Cardiff Metropolitan University is reaching the higher the decision maker, and successfully. And I think it was George, it was 2019 when we do the seminar with the foreign ministry, and most of the decision maker was attending there. And we talked about different subjects of for the SDG, but however we mentioned about the land reclamation also. So I think in a way it's affecting the both way, in the the business side and in the social side.
Thank you.
Anybody else in a question, comment? Anybody?
I think they are being quite shy. Feel free to put your hands up if a few of you would like to turn on your cameras. It'd be nice, I think, for our presenters to be able to see who they've been speaking to.
Yeah, will be marvelous, because now I'm wondering if I am just talking to the speakers all the way. It will be better to see the student, to interact with them. I like to talk with people.
Sorry, Brig, could we all put our video on? You all have capability of doing that. If you want, can you put your video on, please?
That's great. Thanks very much.
You have all the capability of doing that. If you can put all your videos on, please. Those who want, yes.
Yeah, now I feel that I am alive. I can see people.
Okay, you can see them, is it?
We don't say much about this whilst we're presenting to you online, but it is very difficult to present just to a camera without any idea of what's going on at the other end of it.
I have
you can see most of our students. You can see them. You can see them.
Yeah, I will share with you an experience. It's happened to me 1 week ago. I was in this meeting. I applied for as an what they call it, a court expert regarding environmental issue, and then they asked me to do an interview with them, and I was expecting I will come and I will find like a committee of people sitting there, and they will start to ask me about things. And when I arrived there, I found an office and a screen, and I just was just sitting there, and the picture of the people are there and the names. And they start to throw questions from everywhere. It's not the same feeling when you feel that there's people actually standing in front of you.
That's true. Okay. Any question? Hi, Trevor.
Yeah, good morning. I have a question.
Okay, please do.
Yeah, I have a question for Abosede.
Tell us what's your name. Oh, I know who you are, but tell us your name. I'll see a few things after.
Okay. My name is Latifat Habib, an exchange PhD student from Nigeria. Okay, my question goes to Abosede. I'd like to know the recommendations you have for the residential houses around this downstream petrol stations you have mentioned. I know you would have stated some safety precautions for the hotel, for the petrol handlers, like using of PPE and the likes. So what are those recommendations? What are the safety measures you have lined up for the residential houses around those said downstream petrol stations that you identified? Because you said that they are also faced with some environmental health risks too. And I have another question too for you. In comparison with your study in Kwara State alone, Nigeria, and the Wales or United Kingdom in at large, do you feel that the petrol stations in the United Kingdom or Wales do not face similar environmental health risk, even when they have self-service and you don't have to have too many cars around waiting for petrol station handlers to help in filling their tank? And do you feel that they don't have any environmental health risk to the environment, so like the underground water, the soil, and plants like you mentioned? So that's my question.
Thank you so much. Like I said, the petrol stations, from the resort, the residents, the major concern was the noise pollution from their generators that they use in powering their petrol station. So looking around that, possibly, and also the fume too, because some of them complain of headache when they inhaled a lot of fumes from this petrol station, because from my research, it shows that the petrol station where they're located and how they're located doesn't meet up with the government standard. So they're located around large populations. They are located very close to residential areas. So in our recommendation of the development of my suggested recommendation was to put in that all the things they're using, they should make sure that when you have food in the house, when they are drying, when they have food that could be contaminated, that particles that contains all these deaths, all those fumes could settle in, especially those that live close to the residential area. They should make sure that their waters are covered, their foods are covered. And when it comes to the noise, if possible, they close their doors to reduce the frequency of the noise from the environment. And also from noise pollution, we know it affects sleep. If some of them, while they're sleeping, they can use, noise canceling, it may be expensive for them, but that is just a suggestion to those residents. And even the petrol station has a recommendation. If they could build a sound where they keep their generators, the buildings around it, if they could build it in a way that reduces the sound that is being emitted from the petrol station, would be a big advantage to everyone, even the people that works in the petrol station. A very cheap way that would suggest, because the people that work in the retail petrol station, from our findings, have an hygiene issue, and that could be just the first step to go to first that would contribute, largely on their health. They have hygiene issues. Most of them, they stay there, they have currency, they take notes, cash from people, they hold it in their hands, they use their hands to take the nozzle from the pumps to refill cars, and all these, they forget sometimes all these things they've been doing. And when they want to eat, because they have been working, they're tired, they don't concentrate on the emphasis that they need to thoroughly wash their hands before they could hold anything. So it's different. You're inhaling it. Okay, that is one. And unconsciously, you are ingesting the problem again. That contributes to the concentration in your body. So awareness is a very important thing, which is part of the recommendation. Having, rolling out educational materials, creating awareness, enlightening them on these problems that could bring their attention to it, and possibly look for an easy way, a cheap way to start with, because if you bring a solution that involves a lot of money, most of the retail petrol station wouldn't buy it, because they want profit rather than using all their profits to care for their workers. So most of the solutions are what is on ground and what is cheap, what can be affordable to them. That is why it is sustainable and it's not going to affect, their work. Is not going to allow them to start telling some of them to leave their work because they can't pay all their workers and the rest. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Can you hear me now? Right. Now it's 10 o'clock, but it's Trevor, I just wanted to ask, in the work that you did in Guatemala, please, how were the people responding to proposals that you put forward to them, please? Trevor?
I think he may have lost his connection.
Right. Okay. That's fine. Maybe
he's still there, but
yeah. Just wondering where.
Trevor Butler, if in case there was any distortion there, Professor Karani was just asking with the work in about your work in Guatemala. Just if you are able to hear, if you could just let us know.
That's fine. That's okay. That you can. Yeah. Right. Henry, it's now 10 o'clock, and we need to start the next session. What we, unless there's somebody that said, what we had asked our speakers, because they are busy, so they will be joining us, and then most of them are leaving. So, and they may not be able to stay with us until the end, unless you can understand. So what I wanted to ask, if you do not mind, if you can unmute yourself, or so that we can clap for our speakers. Is it possible, please? If you can unmute yourself, all of us.
The mute function is in the left-hand corner on the display. I think that's everybody. So if you would just have a clap for our speakers. Thank you very much for some superb presentations.
Okay, thank you so very much, all of you. Henry, can we take a 5-minute comfort break, please, for everybody?
I think that sounds like a good idea. We'll see you all at what will be 10:10 UK time.
Yeah, Dr. Mburu, is that okay? I can see you there.
Yeah, I'm fine, Prof.
All right, we'll have a cup of tea or something else. We start. I know you're on time, but if you just bear with us.
Thank you very much.
And Trevor, thank you so very much. And I know you need to, but I will communicate to you later. All I wanted to ask is the work at Guatemala, and we can chat that maybe later, because I want you also, unless you have a quick response.
No, I think that's fine for me.
All right, good. And Trevor, in terms, what I ask is, were the people responsive to what you are asking and suggesting to them, or were they resisting?
I found them quite responsive. The majority of people were, because it was quite a low cost solution.
Right.
So it wasn't like a major risk for them to take on board. So they were willing to try and experiment for quite a low cost.
Okay. And I really thank you so very much, all of you. I know some of you will have to go. Those who want to stay part of the other session, you can, especially the speakers. But thank you, Brigadier Dr. Ali Naimi, Ms. Abosede Lawal, and Trevor Butler. Really appreciate, and I'm so grateful to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're very grateful.
All right, we'll start in the next few minutes. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. you. Right, over to you, Henry. We start the second session.
We have this morning our second round of presenters. I wanted to express our profound gratitude to the time and the efforts that our presenters have made in taking the opportunity to come and speak to our students. These are our minds for tomorrow. These are our future, and it's very kind of you to take some time to come to speak with them and to share some of the activities that you've been undertaking in your own countries. So I shall pass on to Professor Karani. Thank you again for bringing these people together for such an excellent opportunity for our students. Professor, if you could introduce our next panel of 3 speakers.
Thank you. Mr. Henry Dawson, Module Lead, ENH 616010, collaborators, students, colleagues, and guests, good morning. I'm very excited to welcome you to this online lecture with our students. When I shared an idea on the proposed approach to delivering this session, Henry was excited with the methods, and he had to pass through some weak barriers so as to hold the session, and I thank him for the good work. I want to thank you, our students, who have participated in lectures with enthusiasm, curiosity, and eagerness to work and learn more about United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. I'm indeed very humbled with the support given to me by my collaborators who have created time from their busy schedules to prepare, plan, and present lecture today. A big thank you to all of you. You all have contributed significantly to our approach to address challenges and opportunities through partnership to improve quality of life by involvement of all appropriate stakeholders, API. In addition to our speakers today, please receive greetings and appreciation from the following collaborators who were unable to attend today due to urgent work commitments or other urgent matters. One, Dr. Juma Mohammed from Libya, who is part of a government health and safety committee at an accreditation event today. Colonel Dr. Abdallah Hamoudi from United Arab Emirates, who is involved with mandatory police training this week. Dr. Abdulaziz Al-Sawi from Oman, who is involved with urgent government matters. Dr. El-Hadi Abogren from Libya, who is at home recuperating. Dr. Judy Mwai from Kenya, who is on government field work on universal healthcare, has sent her presentation, which will be presented later to you. Thank you all and welcome. In these second sessions, we have, to start us off, Dr. Simon Kimani, who is the Chairman Public Health Officers Council in the Republic of Kenya. Over to you, Dr. Kimani.
Thank you very much, Prof. I hope I'm audible from where you are.
Yes.
Thank you very, very much for having me to join you this morning in this session. And therefore, I'm just going to take you through on what you requested on the Sustainable Development Goals. And we'll take through that. I'll move through the 17 and what our interventions are in our country. And then from there, we could receive any questions from students. So if you allow me that way, then we can move.
Yep. Can you mute yourself? We can't hear Dr. Kimani. Can you unmute yourself, Dr. Kimani?
Sorry. I muted myself. Sorry. I'm asking, are you able to see my screen?
No, share your screen. Not yet. Share your screen, please.
Oh.
Whilst we're waiting for Dr. Kimani, if you haven't seen the message in the chat, if you could turn on your screen, it's much more welcoming for our presenters. I'm very happy to see your lovely faces.
You're unmuting yourself, Dr. Kimani.
Henry.
Yeah.
Henry, sorry, I was just trying to reply then saying I was just eating something, so I didn't put my camera on. Mince pie, first one of the season. It's when I'm trying to type in the chat, for some reason it's just got Ryan in there, and if I try and click him off, it's no, that's all right. I figured it out now.
It's a little drop. Yeah, so a lot of us are getting used to the functions within Zoom. There's a little drop down arrow next to what is usually Ryan's name for some reason, because I've messaged him as well this morning. And if you click on that, then the list of options for who to speak to privately or all panelists and attendees comes up. So if anybody wants to post something in the chat, if you click on all panelists and attendees, otherwise Ryan will get to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
All right.
I think you may still be muted.
Check Kimani, ask to unmute. Dr. Kimani, you are unmute. You are on mute. Can you do that, please? Can't hear you. Let me just send him a text. Let him. We can't hear him.
Please bear with us.
Just the technology sometimes. Yeah, it's okay now. Yes.
Excellent.
Hello, Dr. Kimani.
Yes. Yeah. Just a minute. I'm just opening. I'm getting. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay.
Over to you now.
Thank you very much, Prof and the team. So we'd like to start. Thank you, Prof. I hope you can now hear me again.
Yes, we can, and we can see you.
Thank you. I think on the request that you made, we share something on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, a call for action for our country. And you had introduced myself, so I will just proceed. So that these goals emanated from the UN Assembly in September 2015. There was 17 in number, and they came from what we previously used to call Millennium Development Goals. After the evaluation of the achievement, this is how the Assembly decided, and we will see each of them below. So this was an integral part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and these 17 goals were aimed to build upon and broaden the scope of the earlier MDGs, which had expired the same year, at the end of that year. The SDGs marked a historic shift for the UN towards one SDG agenda, and after trying to integrate economic and social development with environmental sustainability. What was key in these SDGs is actually the most ambitious, that they were supposed to bring the goal setting itself at the center of global policy and governance. So initially, the people were focusing on the healthcare workers and independent organizations to implement this. But now, in this case, they brought in policy persons that look at the policy and also the governance. That is the politics. Because some of the goals that we set here could not be achieved if you do not involve the politics and the people who make policy, as well as the people who decide. And that is why the policy matters are important, as well as governance matters. So SDGs were aimed at improving the planet and the lives of its citizens by 2030. That is not very far from now. That is 10 years away, actually. This was by, among others, ending extreme poverty and giving people a better healthcare. The aim is for all countries to work together to ensure no one is left behind. So it's a call for action. Every country was supposed to work towards the SDGs, domesticate the SDGs in their countries, and make sure they're implemented. The ultimate goal being that all citizens were therefore supposed to enjoy the benefits of the SDGs at all levels. So now the 17 SDGs, as done by the UN General Assembly in 2015, the first one, there were 17 numbers. So I'll move in each level, and then you'll be able to see. I'll mention a few things that our country has done. So for example, in poverty, no poverty. The first one was to ensure that nobody experiences poverty. So to end poverty, everyone should access basic healthcare, security, and education. If you have poverty, you may not access basic healthcare, you may not access security, you also may not access education. The other one, governments were to work towards establishing programs that would address poverty alleviation. So countries were given mandates, go and establish programs, go and work out a way that you can alleviate poverty in your nations.
Hello, Dr. Kimani.
Dr. Kimani, I think you may have a malfunction with your microphone.
You've muted himself.
Dr. Kimani is not on mute at your screen.
Oh, you lost the screen again?
Yeah.
Wow. Give me a minute, I'm restoring the screen. It's back, eh?
Yeah, it's back.
Yep.
Yes.
So the SMEs, these are small medium enterprises where the citizens were supported with the enabling environment. They were given soft loans to be able to establish businesses and then support our citizens in this area just to alleviate poverty. The other one is the economic stimulus points were also established in the old districts of this country where farmers were to value add their farm produce for export and even local use. Here they were supposed to, if you grow mangoes, you were able to process, pack, and then sell. All these were aimed at alleviating poverty from the government. The other one was, the second one was hunger, zero to hunger. This goal aims to end hunger among the world's populations globally. For example, 1 in a million people are undernourished. The Kenya government established population data capture through what we call Huduma numbers that will help people trace vulnerable populations at all times, especially during disasters and emergencies. This number were aimed at telling people where people are, where the person is, how can we access that person in times of disasters, how can we support them in case of need for food. It is yet to be implemented, but it is there, and the data is available in the government. The government also established what they call Nyumba Kumi initiatives. These were established to connect to every home. The national government can connect through every home through this initiative, and therefore, in case somebody has problems in food or problems security, then this person can actually be assisted easily. The other one is that goal was good health. This was aimed at ensuring people live healthy lives to cut child mortality and raise life expectancy, eliminating diseases like trachoma, lymphatic filariasis, and other neglected tropical diseases. This was primary in this case. And Kenya established Leader Mama, for example, initiative. We call it Leader Mama, targeting free delivery for all mothers and subsidized access to national health insurance for all citizens to lessen the burden of disease. This is a situation where the government provides some resources for the national health insurance cover, and the citizens cover another percentage for access of health care. The other one is education. The UN aimed at everyone having access to inclusive, equitable, quality education. Kenya education programs aim to ensure every child is able to go to school, and therefore the country established free primary education to all children in the country, free secondary school for all public day schools, and students loans for all college-going students. This is important. It's implemented through a loan scheme that the country has for all students. We also established constituency and county as well as ward funds for education. Children can get funding, education funding through these constituencies, through their county funds or through the ward funds. The other goal is gender equality. This was an important area. Since gender equality is a human rights issue, Kenya enhanced this by enriching it in our constitution as per the Bill of Rights. And the country strives to make all programs gender equitable, and it has, of course, challenges. It has proved difficult at both the political and the administrative levels, in that we are not able to meet the 2/3 gender rule as established by the Constitution. But we are working towards that, or hopefully we'll be able to achieve it in one time or the other. The other goal was clean water, goal number 6. This was aimed at every person accessing clean drinking water. The homes need to protect people from disease by promoting good hygiene. And Kenya has strived to make clean water accessible to all citizens by providing water collection points and distributing it to homes. And we also have made water pans that has been established in many homes to provide water sources. The other one is clean energy. The targets for 2030 included using more renewable and affordable energy. And what Kenya did was to zero-rate renewable sources, equipments, and implements for both solar and wind sources of energy. This, however, has been reversed due to COVID-19 economic effects in our country. As we are experiencing the COVID-19 economic effects, this tax has been returned. But I believe once the economy becomes stable again, we are likely to be zero-rate again as a support for SDG number 7. SDG number 8 was on economic growth. The aim is for sustainable economic growth and decent employment for all. And Kenya aimed at providing employment opportunities for all citizens who are through with college education by availing cheap loans and establishment of youth and women funds to support both youth and women to access employment as well as to create employment in our country. The goal number 9 was industrial and infrastructure. This involves building resilient infrastructure and fostering innovations. Kenya established a rapid infrastructure development projects targeting the whole country, including the Kasuku Highway, for example, Wayaki Expressway, that's ongoing. The standard gauge railways that is finished to connect the country's industry within the countries and the neighboring countries. Then we have the goal number 10, talking about no inequality. This was aimed at ensuring that no inequality is experienced. This included disability rights and promoting equality for people with disabilities. The Kenya established Disability Act of 2013, which addressed all the issues to do with the physically challenged. This group of persons were also given slots in all elective posts in Kenya, not through competitive elective process, but through nominations to address this gap. Then we have the goal number 11 on sustainability, where the UN aimed at increasing affordable housing and make settlements inclusive, safe, and sustainable. And Kenya therefore established cheap settlement areas for all citizens by building houses in all towns in Kenya. of which most constructions is still ongoing. Its vision is an agenda for the government that is in our country to have this in among their 4 agendas. Then you have the construction of sewer lines, as well as drainage areas in almost all counties, as well as pavements supported by the World Bank in all county headquarters. Then you have the goal 12, which is responsible consumption. This goal aims to foster eco-friendly production, reduce wastes, and boost recycling. And Kenya has proactively developed systems to foster production at all levels of governance structure with all the legislative support to the country. So Kenya provided the legislative support to all counties to ensure that the responsible consumption is available, where the management of production, consumption, and the end use is controlled. Then the 13th climate action. This was aimed at regulating emissions and promoting renewable energy. And Kenya came up with a national environmental management legislation that aims at reducing emissions and regulating the same. And the Public Health Act also provides for the regulation of the environmental contamination in our country, and the people therein also control emissions to promote climate action. That targets the industries. It targets all emissions from all sources. Goal 17 is life underwater. The aim is to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources. And therefore, Kenya established the Fisheries Department that controls marine life and ensure responsible use of marine resources in all the Kenyan territories. In Goal 15, we have live on land. This was aimed at stopping degradation, preserving forests, deserts, and mountain ecosystems. And Kenya established a forest service that has been planting trees and doing afforestations in all regions in our country. These are centralized units. It is not a devolved unit. Then Goal 16 was on peace and justice. And the aim is inclusive societies with a strong institution that provide justice for all. And the country developed the current constitution, which addressed all inclusivity at all levels of governance in our country to promote peace and justice. Then the last one was actually on partnership. The partnership evolved, that this is where all the countries were to achieve these goals. International cooperation was vital. Or the countries, if every country took care of the 17 or 16 goals, then we are to cooperate and make our citizens safe, healthy, and prosperous by 2030. And there was therefore supposed to be partnership with local, national, international organizations, and this we do, and this we are doing continuously as a republic with most of our partners all over the globe. Thank you very much, Henry and Prof. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Dr. Kimani. We will now go to the second speaker. A slight change to program. I've just spoken to the person that was supposed to speak. We're trying to connect. They're having some difficulty. He'll possibly let us know. But the second speaker, third speaker, is going to be speaker. Hi, Dr. Mburu. Hello, Dr. Mburu. Unmute yourself.
Yes.
Good morning,
Yes,
Dr.
Prof.
Mburu. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
And thanks for responding quickly to a text I sent to you. I'm delighted. Our second speaker is Dr. Charles Mburu from Kenya, and he'll tell us a little bit about himself, what he wants to tell us, and then over to you. And thanks, Dr. Mburu, for agreeing to swap. Over to you, Dr. Mburu.
Thank you very much, Prof. It's actually afternoon in Kenya. We should have said afternoon. But that notwithstanding, I'm happy to be here to give you my presentation as requested. And I'm happy that Dr. Kimani started off. He has told you a lot about Kenya. I'll talk about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, but mine would be limited to what we do at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. I hope you're all hearing me.
Yes, we are.
Thank you. So I want to share something on the screen.
Your screen has come through just fine. We can see intervention measures for the control of injuries and ill health.
Right. I want to start from there. So my name is Mburu, formerly a PhD student at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. And I was supervised by Professor Kenywa, Professor George Karani, and Professor Keyukia, and graduated in June 2019. My area of study was occupational safety and health. But briefly about myself, I joined the JQuat in 2010 as an assistant research fellow. And today I'm a senior research fellow. I previously worked in industry for over 27 years with a multinational company, which is a British American Tobacco. I worked as an electrical engineer. I rose to become the factory engineer. I joined manufacturing, but I exited the company as the environment, safety and health manager in charge of Sub-Saharan Africa, BAT operations. So at JQuat, I joined the Institute of Energy and Environmental Technology. And I'll be talking of how we address the SDGs through research. We have 3 research areas. We do research in energy, we research in environment, and we also do research in occupational safety and health. Our mandate at JQuat is to teach postgraduate students who are involved in research. So we really don't have undergraduates. Dr. Kimani has talked about all those sustainable development goals of the UN. I'll not talk about them, but I want to share my personal involvement in addressing the SDGs. And I want to share something about my PhD research. The topic was work-related injuries and ill health among farm workers, selected public irrigation schemes in Kenya. So I focused my work on farmers, farm workers. I had 3 study areas in Kenya that included a Ahero irrigation scheme, which is on the western part of Kenya, Pekera irrigation scheme, which is within the Rift Valley, and Mwai irrigation scheme, which is located in central Kenya. The 3 research areas, they were representative of the Kenyan irrigation schemes. Mwai irrigation scheme being the biggest growing rice as a main crop, Pekera growing maize seeds, and Ahero growing rice, but in a different geographical region. I had about 5 research objectives. The first one was to assess the occupational safety and health hazards, or the hazards. The other one was to collect data on work-related injuries and ill health within the scheme. The third one is to explore the constraints that hindered good practice, occupational safety and health. Fourth one was to estimate the economic losses that are caused by these ill health and injuries. And the last one was to develop and test an intervention. Now, looking through these, you can see that a number of SDGs have been addressed. When you assess the occupational safety and health hazards, and going to number 5, where you develop test intervention and test the intervention measure, you're actually passing the information to the farmer that these are the areas that are making you not to be productive. So, SDG number 1 of no poverty is taken care of. Hunger is taken care of. Good health is taken care of. Because if the farmer is capable of controlling the hazards, then they remain of good health. And if they're of good health, then decent work and the economy thrives. Of course, part of the hazards that were found were things to do with water and sanitation. So also SDG number 6 is taken care of. Constraints, again, they also lead to training. The economic losses, they were to show the farmers exactly what they are losing. That's creating awareness. So just briefly of my findings, but I don't want to discuss them a lot. But there were economic hazards, there were physical hazards, chemical hazards, and biological hazards. And looking at that chart, you can clearly see that the biological hazards were the most predominant in all the 3 irrigation schemes. So that becomes an area of concern. And one of the key issues with the biological hazards is actually water and sanitation. Others were coming from insect bites that causes diseases like malaria and other waterborne diseases. That's the hazards. If you look at the injuries and ill health, I have a number of them. Malaria, for instance, was very predominant in the first irrigation scheme, that is Ahero. And interesting that in another irrigation scheme, that is Mwai, malaria was not featuring. So that's an information that is very important because we can borrow what we did in Mwai and transfer it to Ahero so that the productivity and sustainability of the farming improves in the other region. Upper respiratory tract infections, very high this time in Mwai. which incidentally didn't have issues of malaria. So we were able to collect all this data and compare them with the national average. My third column, which is it purple? Is the one for the national average. And an interesting point to note is on woods, the second last, woods. That is the only area where all the irrigation schemes were having higher than the national average, all of them. And that, of course, tells us that in farm work, then workers are more prone to injuries than most of the other occupations. Constraints that hinder good OSH practices. Of course, I looked at all of them, but just to mention, what I found is that the knowledge on safety and health, preventive measures was lacking. Knowledge, the economic costs. Farmers felt that they cannot afford PPEs. But again, when we look at knowledge, it means they didn't even know what PPEs are. And it was interesting that they didn't know that PPEs were actually available in their local shop. But after going through the training sessions that I had with them, they eventually understood what PPEs were, and they realized that they actually afford. Also, a very interesting finding was that there was lack of government support. Majority of the farmers actually didn't know that we even had a department that deals with occupational safety and health issues. The only people they knew were the marketing agents who would come along and sell chemicals to them, explain to them how good the chemical is. But of course, those marketing agents were not telling them how corrosive those chemicals were. So the government support was very important. Maybe at this point I may say that at that moment in time, I was sitting in the National Council for Occupational Safety and Health in Kenya. And I was able to sell the idea to the government. And the Minister for Labor took it up. And my work was actually implemented, taken over by the government. And I was very happy about it. The only thing I cannot confirm is how far they have gone with it. But I know they got funding since my time expired for being a member of the NACO. So the government support was agreed by the Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health Services within the Ministry of Labor that the government support is lacking, and they were willing to give that support, starting with the biggest irrigation scheme and rolling over to the other irrigation scheme. Economic losses, again, in the three schemes. The biggest scheme, that is Mwai, was losing about 1%. Pekera was losing about 4%. And Ahero was losing over 6%. And maybe good to note that the same Ahero is the one that had a very high prevalence of malaria. And it's likely that malaria was a major contributor of the farm workers being absent from work, therefore losing, hence losing their economic strength. Intervention measures I developed intervention measures, which was basically training, and trained the farmers through. And I compared some of the questions that I had asked them. And after the intervention, there was a great improvement. Like I had said before, the farm workers realized that some of the things we call PPE were already readily available. To them, PPE was a foreign thing that is supposed to come from somewhere. They didn't know, for instance, gumboots were PPE. So there was a lot of improvement, and I was impressed. Of course, there have been other research studies that we are undertaking, some of them completed. We have carried out a study on the health status of medical laboratories. We have carried out assessment of occupational safety and health status in toll milling industries, steel industries as well, and a lot to do with fire. The one I've shown is basically in the light industry. The former speaker talked about the informal sector. We call it Duakali. The micro and small industries. This is part of it. At Kariobangi, people have put up industries on small scale. But it was our interest to find out, yes, they're making money. But are they doing it safe? What are the chances of fire coming up? And are they doing enough? The good thing is, once we carry out a study, we always go back and explain to them. And the other one is on pesticide safety, an issue that even today is bringing a lot of debate in Kenya. Because we are having a lot of cases of some of the diseases that we think we can attribute them to pesticides, and especially cancer. Some of the pesticides that are banned in your countries, that is in Europe, they have found their way in our country. They have actually been registered. So we are using them officially. But we have reached a point of asking, are we really doing the right thing? Can we relook at these pesticides? Can we also train our people that we can reduce the incidences of cancer in this country? Those are just some of the studies that we are carrying out. So I've talked about the SDGs that are addressed by that study. Of course, SDG number 17 was being supervised by Professor Karani as part of the partnership. So that is well taken care of. And I must say that as an institute, we go beyond what I've just explained, because we have a department on energy. First of all, we review our syllabus regularly to ensure quality and relevance. Then our Department of Energy, they address the affordable and clean energy issues. That is SDG number 7. Number 11, 12, and 13, very well addressed by our Department of Environmental Technology. Of course, I've talked about, because in all of them, we look for partners from all over the world to work with. And I think that's it. I was told to take only 10 minutes, and I believe I've just taken that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mburu.
Thank you very much
for your presentations. We will have some questions following on after this. Our third speaker has joined us. And he will tell us, we had some few technical problems. Thank God we have sorted them out. Next speaker is Dr. Samuel Akingbehin, who is the President, Environmental Health Officers Association, EHOAN from Nigeria. He's got more than 9,000 he chose and public health people under him. Over to you, Dr. Akingbehin.
Dr. Mburu, if you would be so kind as to close down the sharing of your screen.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samuel Akingbehin. Very good to have you with us this morning. Welcome. Thank you very much for spending the time and efforts to present to our students today. We're very grateful.
Over to you, President.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Professor Karani and all other participants. I'm glad to be here. Sorry, we had some issues in network since yesterday in Lagos State, especially in Nigeria, due to state issues. I will quickly run through my presentation and have us questions thereafter. As rightly introduced by Professor Karani, environmental health in Nigeria is very, very vibrant, and we are up to about 12,000 in population, and we're doing just the work and the responsibilities of environmental health and its management under public health. As you know rightly, that public health flies with two wings, that is the preventive and the curative. We are doing all our activities towards preventing diseases, promoting health, and prolonging lives and efficiency. I want to try and see if I can share, if the network will permit me to share my, can I share now?
Yes, share, please.
I'm trying to work that out.
3 dots, share screen. It's a share screen button. Normally, I think the last time the way we shared, yeah.
Sorry?
I can't remember the system you have, but just the way we did it last time. Sometimes.
Let me quickly change the system and come in again. I actually would like you to have the screen shared with you.
Yeah, you got permission. You've got, and while he's doing that, I've seen Dr. Dean Henry Sawyerr. Welcome. I've seen you. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, Dean Henry Sawyerr. Very good to have you with us. Thank you very much. Please bear with us. We are running a few minutes behind with our presentations. We have had some technical difficulties in the earlier session.
I think for the students, when we have these, and we've also had it also here in the UK, sometimes the internet providers sometimes fail us. So it's not just issues internationally, but we experience this. What I like about the students, where I remember the first session, I think when Henry was trying to show us how to do some things, we are very patient. And that's, honestly, I told Henry about it. I love this group, is that you are patient when things go, because that's the whole work of international work. We've got to learn through what is happening that is right and what's happening that is not right. So just bear with us, and the President EHOAN will join us. Is it okay now, President? if not, you can just speak to the slides, and then because we will, that will be okay, President. Dr. Kimani, I know you were going, but just there's a question from you before you go. There's some 1 or 2 questions that will be asked to you. Just bear with us a few minutes, Dr. Kimani.
It's okay, Prof. It's okay.
And Dr. Mburu, just bear with us. I know you have to go possibly for somewhere else, but just give us a few minutes. Dr. Mburu.
I'm okay, Prof.
Okay, thanks. President, are you okay? Are you? While we are waiting for him to come back, suppose we can. I know Emma Jade Barrett, you had a question to Dr. Kimani. Can we also?
Yeah.
So if you can go ahead and fire the question.
Sorry,
yes?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so my question is, so thank you for answering our questions. So I'm been studying different policies that Kenya have placed with regards to basic healthcare, security and education. And my question for you is, from the policies that the government have adapted, which would you consider as being best applied to result in a reducing child mortality in Kenya? And then a variation to that question is, what would you consider as well as the largest contributing factor that affects child mortality in Kenya?
Sorry, Emma, would you repeat the second question, please?
So the second part of the question I was asking is, what would you consider to be the largest contributing factor which affects child mortality in Kenya?
Thank you very much. Maybe.
Dr. Kimani, I think we have some internet problems.
Yes.
Terrible. We were just about to get your answer there.
Hello, Dr. Kimani.
Professor Karani, I am wondering if it may be worth reorganizing our last 4 speakers, so we are able to receive the questions and then deliver the sessions.
In terms, am I audible?
Dr. Kimani, you have returned. We lost you just at the beginning of your answer.
Sorry. In terms of the child mortality, the best initiative the government took was the Leader Mama initiative. Leader Mama initiative is where the mothers access free delivery, free maternity services in the country, in all our public health facilities. So mothers don't struggle. Immediately you become pregnant, you afford all the way. So it has not just reduced the infant mortality rate, but also the maternal mortality rate, because all the mothers are able to be seen in the health facility and taken all through until they deliver. And even after they deliver, they are monitored through the Leader Mama initiative all the way up to the age of 5 years. This has tremendously contributed, and this is courtesy to the First Lady of the country, Honorable Margaret Kenyatta, who is the wife of the current President of the Republic of Kenya. This is an initiative that our mothers have appreciated, that we, the healthcare workers, have appreciated. This has worked for Kenya, and this is very good for this country. Thank you, Emma, for the question.
Thank you.
Sorry, George, you're sounding a little distorted.
Hello, Emma.
Are you speaking to me? I'm really sorry. It's really muffled.
George, your voice is undergoing a little bit of distortion from your microphone. Emma Jane, are you happy with the answer to your question? Do you want to ask any more questions of our presenters whilst we have them?
I wanted to further on that question to ask, how does the government ensure that these types of community health strategies are accessible to people that live in the rural areas and the poorer areas?
Thank you, Emma. I think these initiatives were established through the normal healthcare system. So they were anchored in the health facilities from the primary level, that is dispensaries. They were also anchored in the health center levels. And then we had the mobile, the Damama vehicles, where the mothers could deliver in those particular vehicles where there are no facilities at all. So this initiative was actually anchored along the way, along the entire healthcare system, especially at the primary level, because this is where the problem is. In the urban levels, the health facilities are well established. In the rural areas, the very rural areas is where the health infrastructure has a challenge. And therefore, whenever there is the initiative occurred, then these facilities were anchored with the dispensaries and the health centers. But the most important thing also was we had the mobile vans, the mobile trucks that were modified into small dispensaries, and they were able to move with a nursing officer or a clinical officer or both, and moving all the way to the health, the rural areas. They move with the community health work. They meet with the community health workers. The community health workers link with the community. Those volunteers bring the mothers to the vehicle. They are attended to. They go back, and then the next time, maybe after a month or after several weeks, the vehicle comes back continuously. But during the delivery, mostly the mothers are referred to the health facilities. So, Emma, once more.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
George, we can just about make out what you are saying at the moment.
I just want to ask Dr. whether they on a little bit on the aspect of rural areas, because he worked with farmers at rural settings in the country.
So, George, I think from that you're interested in the work that Dr. Kimani have been doing in the rural areas. Maybe if to get around this technical problem that we have been given, if you type the question into the chat area, that would be a solution.
Right. I think we will go on to the next section. Is that okay, Andrew?
I think that sounds like it would be the optimum way forward at this point. So if we draw this session to a close, may I say some words, George? In terms of rural area, anything you want to add Is there anything you'd like to add around the SDGs in your areas for those speakers? Dr. Mburu?
Yeah.
What is the question?
Is there anything you would like to add around the SDGs in your area? In the rural areas, Dr. Mburu?
I think Dr. Kimani has explained the Kenyan situation. And I don't think I need to add anything on top of that. I was focused on the studies that we have carried out. I didn't look at the Kenyan situation, and he's best placed being in the public health and in the national office.
Okay. George, I think we have further problems with the microphone, with your computer. May I say some words? I would like to thank our guest speakers from the previous session for their compelling and enjoyable presentations. It's been very interesting indeed to hear from you and to find out about the activities you've been undertaking around the world. We're very grateful for the time you've taken from your busy schedules to present to us here today. Thank you very much for your involvement.
Thank you for giving us a chance.
Thank you very much, Henry and the team, for giving us a chance. And we're happy to have shared with Cardiff. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
Now, we understand that you're very busy, and if you wish to excuse yourself from the session at this time, please do and go return to your duties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
For our next final and round of speakers this morning, we have Dean Dr. Henry Sawyerr, Dr. Judy Mwai, from Nigeria and from Kenya, respectively, and Mr. Uthayan from Canada. We would like to welcome our accomplished guests and say how honoured we are to have you with us. As the module leader for this module, I would like to express how fortunate we are for the time you are taking to speak to our group and the efforts you've made to assemble what will, I'm sure, be fascinating and impressive presentations. Our students are the minds of tomorrow. They represent our future, and the group we have here will go on to represent the public's health and the health of our environment in the years to come. These presentations are an excellent opportunity for them to see the activities that are being undertaken in a range of countries and how the needs of the public's health and the environment are being protected. We're very fortunate to have Professor Karani as part of our team, and I would like to thank him for his interest and support for our students. His investment in bringing all these speakers together today is something that comes from the heart, and it's something that we're very fortunate to be able to enjoy the benefits of. His ongoing work with a range of international collaborators really brings the subject of this module to life. Professor Karani, if you are still suffering from these problems with your microphone, would you like me to start with our first presenter, Dean Dr. Henry Sawyerr?
All right, how is it now? Any better
superb.
Now?
Yes.
All right. Hello. Sorry about that. Mr. Henry Dawson, module lead, ENH 610, collaborators, students, colleagues, and guests. Good morning and good afternoon to some of you in other countries. I'm very excited to welcome you to this online lecture with our students. When I shared an idea on the proposed approach to delivering this session, Henry was excited with our methods, and he had to pass through some weak barriers so as to hold the session, and I thank him for the good work. I want to thank you, our students, who have participated in lectures with enthusiasm, curiosity, and an eagerness to work and learn more about United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I'm indeed very humbled with the support given to me by my collaborators who have created time from their busy schedules to prepare, plan, and present lecture today. A big thank you to all of you. You all have contributed significantly to our approach to address challenges and opportunities through partnership to improve quality of life by involvement of all appropriate stakeholders. In addition to our speakers today, please receive greetings and appreciation from the following collaborators who are unable to attend today due to urgent work commitments or other urgent matters. Dr. Juma Mohammed from Libya, who is part of a government health and safety committee at an accreditation event today. Colonel Dr. Abdallah Hamoudi from United Arab Emirates, who is involved with mandatory police training this week. Dr. Abdulaziz Al-Sawi from Oman, who is involved with urgent government matters. Dr. El Hadi Abogren from Libya, who is at home recuperating. Dr. Judy Mwai, I saw her and we communicated, she's on, but she's also passed her appreciation and she has sent her presentation. Thank you all and welcome. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome a good friend of mine, Dean Henry Sawyerr. Over to you, Dean.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Professor Karani. I hope I've not noticed myself. Yes, thank you very much, Professor Karani. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm quite pleased to be part of the panelists on this lecture series. It's always an honor to be able to share experiences from around the world. And Professor Karani and I have actually done quite a lot in this respect. So to again be asked to share views in this respect, it's certainly very much of an interest. I've sent in my PowerPoint. Is it possible to be able to put the PowerPoint up on the screen, please? In the interim, what I actually wanted to share is what we saw through as a trending evaluations of COVID-19 pandemics in Nigeria, starting from March through October, which is actually the peak period season when the COVID incidence, emerges here in Nigeria. And then to run through that is also to be able to share with the students and other panelist members what the experience has been most critically. And along the line, we were able to conduct a quality of life assessment studies of the environmental health officers' workers within that same period. But what makes it interesting for us to be able to step back and take a look at these trending evaluations of COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria is that we were trying at this point to try also and understand how has the trends of COVID been in Nigeria and how has that also been able to affect the gender parity, the various age groups, and then we looked at it in pockets of different sections within various regions in Nigeria. Second slide, please. So that's me and myself and my students, Ms. Latif Abiba. I actually worked on this before the call for this participation. On the introduction, I'm sure there's very little to, again, express to most of us here, as we're all pretty much aware of the pandemic that has gripped the entire globe in recent time. And by the WHO ranking, Africa is ranked to be one of the 13th high-risk countries or continents in the world. And so the spread by no means is of a greater significant effects on us here in Nigeria. And to this extent, even now that we're rounding up in the month of October, the trend has actually declined quite remarkably in Nigeria compared to where our peak periods are, but that by no means did not elude us from still emphasizing on the need for constant precautions as mandated by the WHO. Next slide, please. The agency that was saddled with the high responsibility of addressing the COVID incidents in Nigeria is the Nigerian Center for Disease Control. And the center was actually brought into earlier operation, and in their findings and their various regular TV documentary, they were able to assist in keeping the government, the citizens, and the various agencies of the ministry, their departments, on their feet in order to make sure that an effective operational control is undertaken. Next slide, please. So from this paper, we're actually looking at there are 36 states in Nigeria, and they're ranked in about 4 different regions. We have the Southwest region, we have the South-South, the Southeast, the North-Central, and then the Northwest and the Northeast. So that's primarily what the task force that, again, as an inclusion of the presidential task force is included in. And so the table you're looking at is the incidence of coronavirus from 27th of February right through the 27th of March, which is really the first 30 days of the influence operation. And so our numbers begin to emerge at that stage. So technically, we're almost like 3 months behind the outbreak, which of course started way back in late November, early December of 2019. So our numbers started with 81 positive cases. We had 3 discharges and 1 death. And subsequently down the line, between February through to April, the number peaked. The number peaked tremendously, where we then have positive cases that have jumped from the first 30 days right through the next 60 days to about 1,337. And the total discharge is at 355 and 40 deaths. By June, which is now 100 days into the Advent consequence, the number has almost quadrupled to 12,486, with again the discharge rate at 3,957, and the total number of deaths now began to move up from there. So you can see the trend in growth between the first 30 days right through the next 100 days. Next slide, please. And so one of the first epidemiology and early response to the COVID-19 incidents is for us to look at where are some of the hotspots in Nigeria. And I think about 3 or 4 states were recognized as the hotspots. One of them being Lagos, which is the commercial capital city of Nigeria, and then the federal capital city, which is Abuja. And the reason why those 2 spots are considered to also be hotspots is because the influx of visitors and even Nigerians returning also is seen to be a factor. And while most people who comes in based on maybe their affluent status did not so much to report their cases, they had in turn been able to move into their various homes and their various communities, and invariably they all became a super spreader in that context. So about 15% patients that were known to contact these cases are hereby suggested to be through community transmission or a cross infection. And Lagos, by that means, accounted for about 50% of the numbers that we saw at that time, with Abuja ranging at about 20.3%. Osun State has a number that actually comes quite interesting. And the reason for that being that Osun State also have a peculiarity of having a number of citizens from Osun State who, again, does their business in places like Cote d'Ivoire or other West African sub-regions. And so most of those group also began to return back home. Next slide, please. So in that context assessments, we said, looking at that March through June, the highest numbers were seen to, again, have actually come up within that first 100 days. And subsequently, that runs us through. But with the trend going around the period of March through to April, June, the presidential task force with the Center for Disease Control, they kicked in into taking a whole lot of proactive measures. One of the first early challenges that the country again was caught up with is lack of defined isolation centers or even testing point areas. But the government, through the task force and international donors and collaborations with even the private sector, they all came through and began to give their assistances one way or the other. Next table, next chart, next slide, please. So the slides we're looking at here gives a rundown of the COVID incidents moving through from July the 12th all the way down to August. And you can see from the slide as indicated there that Lagos and the Federal Capital Territory, they continue to be on the peak high number ratio with active cases being assessed, the discharge numbers also being looked at, as well as the total number of deaths. Oyo began to come into the fold because Oyo State is about 2 hours drive from the capital city of Lagos. And some of the other states that you're seeing are also further interland relative to those who are within some commercial spread points or even possibly commercial spread points and even migration from one part of the country to the other, either through air, land, or even seaports, as the case may be in some of these situations. Next slide, please. What we try to do from this slide is looking at the growing trends as compared to the laboratory confirmed cases. We're assessing them based on also the various fatalities. And I think this further speaks to the different local government parts, different states in Nigeria. And that's what you are able to see there. Next slide. These slides would assist us greatly because it shows really a compounded chart. And the essence of that chart is to now see what are the burdens based on gender and also various age groups. So you can see that the impact on the female is relatively lesser compared to the male gender. And the second table next to it shows how the trend that peaked starting from February and how it all plateaued all the way through to around the late May and the June period. But by the time we start going into the July, the trend starts also dropping in one part of the country to the other. So males, by virtue of what we've been able to observe on these trends, are seen to have also been very, very largely affected. And within that same male age group, we find out that those between the age of 31 to 40 are seen to be very highly affected. In the case of the female, ages 21 to 40 seems to be almost on a constant impact level, while the most vulnerable are seen in the Nigerian data shows ages between 31 to 40. And I think to some extent that is pretty much not the case when you looked at what the trend of the WHO data has been with developed countries, where we find out the elderly are more vulnerable. But in the case of what we observe in the Nigerian trend, again, ages between your 31 to 40, 41 to 50 are seen to be within the most affected age range, especially in the male sector. Next slide, please. So our peak seriously is around the June-July period. And at some points, there were drops in some of the trend effects, but subsequently we see spikes, because what I've shown from the observation here was that when the country began to when the country began to see that the impact had started subsiding in some regions, because there were total lockdown in some areas that are considered hotspots. And so there was some element of relaxation, because the period of total lockdown became an economic crunch to a country like Nigeria, where almost predominantly you could say that almost 80% of the citizens are on one small business or the other. So for them to have actually been locked down for a period of almost 60 days, and the government palliatives did not really elevate the concern as expected. So it started becoming an economic burden on some of the citizens. And so there was this sneaky initiative to try and either move back to their locations or try to violate the government restriction policy. And so when the peak had been noted, and then there were drops in incidence cases, then at some point, the lack of a very strong enforcement had shown that through that June, July, all the way to August, we begin to have sort of a trending spike in numbers along the line. Next slide, please.
Dr. Sawyerr? Dr. Sawyerr, are you there? Hello, Dr. Sawyerr?
Dr. Sawyerr, I think we have lost your voice feed.
Latifa, are you there? Latifat, are you there? Latifat, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here, sir.
Do you want to continue, please?
Okay.
It's only 2 slides, please.
Okay, the next slide is on the public health education and risk communication on COVID-19 in Nigeria. So a lot of public health measures were trying to put up by the government. One is campaigns on coronavirus commenced in the earnest report index case of COVID-19. Both the conventional and the social media, including WhatsApp, Twitter, and Facebook, were all used in disseminating the updates on the virus. And also, sensitization activities across some streets in the country by the National Orientation Agency, the faith-based organization were also used in orientating the people about the COVID-19 and the preventive measures. Experiences from 2014 Ebola outbreak and Lassa fever should have helped the country prepare for COVID-19 outbreak. The first strategy after the index case was contact tracing. Some of the challenges being faced in the implementation of contact tracing in Nigeria strategy includes lack of support and cooperation from the returnees who reportedly filed fake contact addresses and incorrect phone numbers in the forms at the point of entry, which pushed up the cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. Generally, the response to coronavirus outbreak in Nigeria could be described as medical-centric and reactionary. The federal and state government only set up isolation centers after positive cases were confirmed in the country. For instance, there was no molecular laboratory in Ogun State, which is a state like 2 hours drive to the peak, the state where there's a peak of coronavirus in Nigeria, which is Lagos State, where the index case was identified. The patient was transferred to Lagos State for diagnosis and treatment. The same applies to other states where government acquired medical equipment to fight the outbreak only after positive cases had been reported. the inadequate proactive preparedness for the initial wave created by COVID-19 in Nigeria. The pandemic also exposed the generally deplorable state of the healthcare infrastructure in the country, a significant reason for the medical tourism embarked on by the Nigerian elites. The greatest lesson of COVID-19 for Nigeria is the impossibility of taking foreign medical trips, mainly to Germany, the UK, and US for the treatment of COVID-19. It is a norm for most African politicians who underfund and underdevelop their health institutions to travel abroad for health care. The federal and state government are squeezing out our funds to upgrade, set up some facilities to boost COVID-19 response capacity. Due to the increasing evidence of community transmission, the Presidential Task Force recommended searching involving house-to-house search, which has resulted in an increase in the number of cases detected, especially in Lagos, which is the city where there's a peak of COVID-19 in the country. More cases detection means more contact tracing. The process further involves social filtering, recognizing those with or without risk, and promoting safety measures. The ultimate result is to squash the host agent link to reduce incidence of COVID-19 in Nigeria. Conclusively, in Nigeria, the country's existing health facilities and equipment, which includes ventilators and various PPEs, are grossly inadequate to handle the medical emergency due to COVID-19. Although the number of isolation facilities and capacity for intensive care units in the country is growing, they are inadequate as many states are still struggling to set up isolation and treatment facilities. A rural COVID-19 outbreak might spell doom for any community in Nigeria and Africa. At present, the urban outbreak is overwhelming in some countries, including South Africa. The African continent must be very proactive in preventive and public health campaigns. Multi-sectoral coordination and proactiveness enable Nigeria to successfully fight 2013 Ebola virus disease. The same approach will help in defeating COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Latifat, for participating and contributing to the discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. And as you can appreciate, these are things that we face, and you can see even in UK sometimes we do. And so thank you very much for participating and also introducing and working together with our guest from Nigeria. Can you see the screen? Can you see it?
At present, George, we have the normal display with the squares with the different people attending. Thank you very much, Dean Dr. Henry Sawyerr as well.
Right, can you see my screen now?
Yeah, working together to ensure
Yes.
no one is left behind.
Absolutely. Presenting is on behalf of my former student. She joined us and she had to go for the meeting, so I will share this with you as Dr. Judy Mwai. It's on a project that she's doing, so I'll not be able, those are the people that are working on the project from institutions, 3 institutions, JQuat and Cambridge, the Kenya Medical Research Institute. They talk about the COVID aspect, but I would just be able to go to a little bit of the objectives. I go back is to assess interventions in 2 areas in the country, Mombasa and Kilifi, to adopt a cross-sectional study, and particularly to use both quantitative and qualitative, and to use statistical packages to solve the data that they will get. The introduction is not something that we do not know about the fact that almost 850 million people don't have access to a source of water, 2.3 billion people do not have access to a basic sanitation service, and 10% of the global burden of disease results from unsafe water, poor sanitation, or inadequate hygiene. Those are aspects of the costs that Henry and I have tried to share, plus also the amount of work that you are currently doing yourself, and particularly in terms of SDG number 6. There is very little information on COVID-19. MOH, there is Ministry of Health in terms of the data as 15th of October 2020, over almost 800 people have died, 42,450 cases. Again, similarly, pattern to that presented by the Dean and the Latifat, half of the affected are males. And again, if it's interesting, the age group is 62%. Again, remembering what the Dean shared. So the practice that they are putting forward is hand washing, which is a key to hygiene and prevention pattern. So it has worked quite significantly in there. Somebody asked about question rural areas, and you can see what we now know is that there are some inequalities in the approach to control methods used in the urban and rural settings. So the justification of the two areas, Dr. Judy and I and Dr. Mwai and Professor Karanja, we did some work in Kilifi, so we have a good aspect of Kilifi. So that's where we wanted to, this second part of the project to be undertaken in the county. So if you look at the objectives there, which I spoken to you, especially the fourth one, to determine social, economic, environmental, and health factors within the community associated with uptake of water, sanitation, and hygiene. So they developed a number of questions, including how effective current strategies in Mombasa and Kilifi are to the prevention of COVID-19 pandemic, the types of hand washing facilities and services at the household and community level, community perception and wash practices, and socioeconomic, environmental, health factors that I spoke to you about. The two areas, it's a cross-sectional study where the population were the household heads aged over 18 years, residing in the sites, healthcare workers at the county level, healthcare decision makers, and non-government organization. NGO is non-government organization. They don't put cotton wools and close your eyes when you see that. That's a statistical method that we normally use to determine the minimum number of sample that you require, subjects that you require for the study. It's a developed method, so they just adopted that. And at the end, you can see that the sample size they found were for Mombasa, 266 households, whereas Kilifi was 325 households. Then, as you saw in research methods, we developed inclusion and exclusion criteria for the questionnaire, people working in the area, people over 18, and people who agreed to take part. Those we eliminated, people not residing in the two areas, people who don't consent, people who are too sick or ill to participate. So that's for the questionnaire. In KI, which is key informant interviews, people working with the selected county governments, people familiar with COVID-19 and wash interventions, people working with organizations involved in wash and health interventions. And exclusion criteria, of course, people not familiar, and also people who would not be willing to take part. The data methods included several aspects of structured questionnaires that were converted into an electrical data collection tool, used a key informant interview guide similar to some work that Judy and her collaborators did in Kilifi, observation checklist, and voice recorders to record responses. Then there was the data management aspect of it, and that's why we needed some scientific data, people that can help us can help the team in analyzing the data once it is transferred to Excel and later converted to SPSS. Qualitative data transcribed, and then content analysis using Vivo version 10. I think Abosede mentioned about ethical or the other projects that have been presented. You have to be able to get ethical. So when you hear as students telling you that you must get ethical approval before you start a project, it's something we also do. So ethical approval has been sought to the necessary authorities, and authority from country government is also being taken at the moment. What they expect to get from the project: community and user feedback, capacity of the country governments to see how they can address COVID epidemic, the strategies by the country governments to address COVID-19 with regard to WASH will also be determined. And the long term is to inform future planning. This is a statement written by Dr. Judy Mwai, and she wanted me particularly to share it with you, that much of the research work done by the PI, Dr. Judy, endeavors to address most SDGs, specifically 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 17, including universal health coverage by Ministry of Health and KEMRI, Kenya Medical Research Institute, and WASH Studies. KEMRI as an institution is keen on maintaining our collaboration with Cardiff Metropolitan University, and our contact person, Professor Karani, has played an instrumental role in making this happen. The collaborative funded proposals through Prof, the latest one being the Royal Society of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene Fund and the WASH project funded by the government of Kenya. He has also maintained a mentorship role with the former PhD students whom we supervise. Thank you, Judy. We look forward to maintaining this collaboration and thank the entire Cardiff fraternity. Thank you, Prof, once more for accepting to present on behalf of the team, since we are currently in the field implementing universal healthcare fieldwork. The government of Kenya Big Four agenda geared towards achieving affordable and accessible health to all, for all. That was a presentation written and prepared by Dr. Judy. So my role was just to present. And thank you, Dr. Judy. I'll stop sharing and I'll go to our last speaker, Uthayan from Canada. Are you? What's the time in Canada, Uthayan?
Yeah, I'm here.
What time is it in Canada?
Right now is 6:47 a.m.
6:47 a.m. Well, it's 11:47 either. So over to you. Kindly just stick to around 10-15 minutes because so that you can leave some time for questions. Over to you, Uthayan. And thanks to see Dean back.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It is a great opportunity. Thank you for giving an invitation from Professor Karani, and thank you for all the presenters. I am the last one. I know most of you are hungry now. They're almost 12 noon, eh? Yeah. Okay. So I'm happy to present my work and the research focused on implementing United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. My name is Uthayan Thurairajah. I'm an electrical project manager at WSP Canada. And UK has over 42 offices of our companies. I think over 10,000 employees there. And also I'm currently a PhD candidate at Cardiff Met. So can I share my screen?
Yes, you can.
The president.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Let me start by. Okay. So just before going just like a basic, because I had to go through quickly because of the time limitation and everything. So everyone knows, everybody mostly like an environmental student, they know that the Big Bang happened 13.7 billion years ago. All the scientists believe there is a beginning of the universe. And then from there, the Earth came to exist in about 4.6 billion years ago. And then when the Earth come to exist, there is no oxygen or tree or plant or anything in the atmosphere. And all carbon dioxide, and then so very high nitrogen and other things, but actually they don't have a proper conducive environment. It takes so many millions of years to revolve and evolve and make sure that is first set cyanobacteria form in the sea waterbed, and then this photosynthesis happened, and they push the oxygen out to the environment. Gradually, oxygen increase in the atmosphere, and then which eventually is created ozone layer, such a way to protect all the living being, and also other insects and all the crocodiles and turtles and or dinosaurs and all other living being, including human being, came to exist on the earth. So it's without, there are critical things that we sometimes forget, but the important thing to remember that without sunlight, the first thing is without sunlight, nothing exists in the earth, in the earth, especially living being and non-living being. There is nothing going to be here. So the sunlight is a major component, major contributor for this environment we are existing right now. And also that after that, water and then tree. Without tree, nothing can happen. That's why all the municipalities, all the cities in the world, just encouraging everyone, whenever they have any development, subdivision development, industrial development, or any other development happening, they are encouraging to plant more trees. And if they don't allow anybody to cut a tree, in case they cut one tree, and then they had to install 5 trees to replace it, compensate it. So why I say that one, because it's very, very critical to understand this. So we had to appreciate the nature. We had to know our survival behind the nature. Without basic fundamental things about these things, nobody can exist. The all other disease we talk about, COVID-19, cancer, or cardiovascular diseases, all these different diseases is a secondary to this. If you don't have oxygen, few minutes, everybody gone. So we don't appreciate that. So now look at the sustainable development goal. When we look at the sustainable development goal, and then WSP, the company that where I am working, and then you can see so many areas within the sustainable development goal we are addressing. You can Google it, find the report from my company and how they are addressing. They right to achieve good health and well-being. Any infrastructure we build, we do everything. we, we have over 65,000 employees all over the world. And then Canada itself about 10,000, UK more than 10,000 there. So the quality of life in the built environment is one of the critical nature we do. And then low carbon design, that's affordable clean energy. And then we encourage gender equality, and women leadership in the staff, and also the project management, and also the future ready. Whenever we have a project, we always thinking about the future ready. So designing for the future. And then also we donate time for community building. And then always climate change. We try to keep carbon neutral by 2025. And then also we bring in the biodiversity back to city. All those things are part of our design process. And however, particularly my area of the work is low voltage distribution, and also mm, low voltage distribution, and also the lighting design. As you can see, sorry about it, I don't feel well, that's why. So the if you can see that most of my designs are outdoor lighting design, and then outdoor lighting design, we definitely saving about 70% of the energy by replacing the traditional sources. Traditional sources, you can see it about street lighting, parking lot, underpass lighting, tunnel lighting, pathway lighting, and all different kind of lighting in the outdoor lighting. You can see that pathway lighting, multi-use pathway lighting, park lighting, all these different lighting. We use high pressure sodium light sources, metal halide, and HID source, high intensity discharge lamp. Those lamps are very not energy efficient. So by using LED, so I can save about 70% of the energy. Nowadays, all over the world, they don't use no more coal plant. We use all kind of renewable energy, which is biomass, solar energy, wind energy, and geothermal hydroelectric power, which doesn't emit carbon dioxide into the environment. So that is the reason that we have ensures health and safety and well-being. And our design for streetway or any infrastructure design, we give opportunity for the people with all ages and all abilities can utilize the space. Even bicyclists, pedestrians, disabled person, and all different modes of transportation will be accommodated. You can see that anywhere in the street, we are encouraging to plant tree as well, part of the development process. That oxygen is important. So my research, that is my about WSP work. And then that summary of it. And then now you can look at my PhD research at Cardiff Met. My title of my research is a novel approach to controlling outdoor light pollution by adapting a smart science and technology to improve residents' quality of life in the built environment. You guys know very well that light pollution is crapping all over the world, the major cities of the all over the world. Look at this one. Like any lighting design, you had to think about sky glow, glare, trespass lighting, clutter, excessive lighting, which creating the light pollution. So the light pollution is the impact the health and well-being and quality of life of the people. So what is the negative impact of light pollution? Energy waste. So we just addressing the energy waste and the night sky, and then also the quality, air quality. That's also disturbed by nighttime air pollution, light pollution, disturbs in the air quality at nighttime. And then wildlife ecosystem health. Wildlife also enjoying the circadian rhythm, and then so we make sure that that should be addressed. And then, so I have very short time. So the human health, we lost human beings governed by natural day and night cycle. Everybody know, all the living being, circadian rhythm. So which is disturbed by the artificial light at night, which is man-made light, human-made light. So that's why that's the reason that we had to consider about the human health at nighttime exposed to different type of artificial light. And then safety, of course, the safety, that is one of the main reason that why we have the artificial at night. Without light, even we have a 20/20 vision, we don't see anything. We cannot see anything. So that's why light is very critical for any task if you want to do it. Without light, we cannot do anything. So basically, any light we design, artificial light, it has a color, it has a distribution, it has a certain intensity, it has a time, what time of the exposure to that light, whether daytime or nighttime or sleeping time, and the duration of the exposure, how long we are exposed to that light, how long we under the artificial light, and the history. Yesterday, 8 o'clock, I have light exposure. Today also, maybe I had to have 8 o'clock light exposure. So the history also playing the role. So when we expose to the light, what we are able to do, the visual system started to function. So we can able to see. At the same time, it's affect our body's circadian rhythm. So that is why a lighting designer or the lighting system designer had to be very good sound knowledge and understanding about not only about just giving the lighting, but also think about the human health, well-being, and quality of the life. That is the reason my research emphasizing the new way, the novel way to control the light pollution. There are three different ways: source level, modifier level, and user level. or combination all three. This is my research about light pollution. Thank you. That's all I have. I was driving in a highway.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
Right? Can you stop sharing your screen?
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Okay, we're almost there, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, collaborators. I really, personally, I've learned a lot. I've taken notes of things I didn't know and things I have known. We have time for just a few questions before we say goodbye and go have some lunch. Others like Uthayan have breakfast. Dean, I think, is almost the same time with lunch. Okay. Any quick question before we? Anybody with a quick question?
Henry, can I ask my question?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Emma?
Okay, so I have a question for. I was particularly going to aim it to Mr. Sawyerr, but anybody welcome to give me an answer. So I've been researching overseas aid structures, and particularly something that interests me about the epidemic is the global burden of COVID-19. So I suppose my question is, do you have concerns about the economic effect of the pandemic on countries that fund overseas aid to countries? So, you know, do you think that's going to have a negative effect on the funding amount to overseas aid in general?
Dean, do you want to start off, please? Unmute yourself.
Yes, can I have the question again? I know there was something around economic.
Okay, so I've been researching overseas aid structures, and particularly something that interested me about the pandemic is the global burden of COVID-19. So I was wondering if you had any concerns with regards to the economic effect of the pandemic on the countries that fund overseas countries, so such as the economic effect to the USA and the UK. Do you think this is going to have a negative effect on the funding amounts that these countries give to overseas general aid?
Yeah, thank you very much. The data have actually not been compiled together quite extensively, but it is obvious that the incidence of the COVID-19 has also had a very tremendous economic effects on the Nigerians generally, because one of the primary source of income in the country is obviously in the oil and gas sector. But over the years, the government has also begun to push more towards agriculture. And with the COVID-19 shutdown, the agricultural bank in the country has also slided quite greatly. And so I'm obvious that in digging further and bring up what is more of a realistic data information, but definitely, yes, there's this very serious economic effect on the country. The post-COVID incidents now is even resulting in a lot of youth unrest. And I'm sure there's so much information trending in the news now because the economic impact has also affected the government so much that it's not been able to meet up with some of its intending obligations. But I'll be glad to step further, explore more information and provide that to this platform.
Thank you very much, Dean. Any other question? Latifat, you wanted to say something. Do you want to say it now before we go home? And Latifat Habib, you text me, you said you wanted to add something. I think Latifat, you are muted.
Yeah, it was what I wanted to add is personal between me and.
Okay, fine. We'll have a chat.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
okay.
not it. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry, I misread. Any other quick question before I hand over to the module lead to? But from my part, genuinely, and third time I've said that, and I mean it. Thank you, all of you, and to my collaborators. I know it's hard work at a very short notice. You're all very busy. You've interacted with my students, which is what I wanted. I do hope that my students have got something. These are collaborators. You've seen some of them are PhDs completed. They are senior people in different parts of the country. So you have some friends in other countries. So that is the purpose of what I do. I just love sharing it out so that you'll be able to, you've met new people possibly you didn't know before. And that is what I like, just addressing quality of life by partners. Thank you very much. And I've said before, Henry, I don't know why you asked me, but again, thank you very much. Over to you, Henry.
To our presenters from our final session, I'd like to thank them for their compelling and enjoyable presentations. It's been very interesting indeed to hear from you. It's been very interesting indeed to hear from you and to find out about the activities you've been undertaking around the world. We're very grateful to the time that you've taken from your busy schedules to present to us here today. Particular thanks for waking up before breakfast to speak to our students from Canada and looking so cheerful whilst you're doing it. I think that's something that most of us would struggle with at that time in the morning. Professor Karani, you've gone to a great deal of time and effort to arrange and coordinate the presentations today. I think this morning's been very successful. The logistical barriers you've managed to overcome are pretty significant. And I just want to say thanks very much for this. It's not been done before at this university, and I'm not sure that it's been attempted at any other university that I'm aware of. It's a demonstration of some of the benefits that we can get from this teaching online. But it can only happen if we've got the sort of commitments and significant efforts, someone such as yourself with the connections that you have, and someone who's well thought of by their colleagues. So thank you very much, George, for making this happen.
A pleasure.
So that brings us to the end of our slot. Not bad, considering we've had 9 speakers from 5 different countries, that we're only 5 minutes late. So thank you very much for some excellent questions from you guys. We'll end the session now, and you'll be, I understand, back on with Alistair this afternoon, and some of you will be meeting socially in the social chat area between the 2 sessions. But for now, enjoy your lunch. Thanks very much. You will be having your on-campus session for those that are on campus with a different member of staff next week. But I shall be back again, this time in Microsoft Teams next Thursday, and we shall do some final areas for around global health developments and getting you ready for your assignment. But that ends the session today. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, George.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.